This is the third and last introduction to astro imaging. Going to do a little software magic tonight, but that comes later toward the end. Last week, Ellsworth asked a question about a Photoshop article that was in Sky and Tell. I read that article, and the guy who wrote that article was obviously a Photoshop expert. He talked about using layers and working with them. I don't use Photoshop. I was impressed by it, but I think that only other Photoshop users are going to be able to understand what he was talking about. I didn't. It was just unfortunately way over my head. So I wish I could say something really meaningful about it, but I can't, Ellsworth. So that's the only response I can give to you, and I hope that's a little bit helpful.
I had
Photoshop,
I had the same feeling.
yeah. Now Photoshop is a great product, and but it is for advanced users. But let's get going. Okay, tonight I want to talk about image file types, software that will capture your images, software for image processing, and free software versus the money software that you pay for. When you look at image file types, you see all kinds out there: RAW, JPEGs, FITs, TIFF, PNG, all of them. Does it make a difference? Does it mean anything? Well, they do, and it is important. With my digital single lens reflex, I can save images in two ways. The first way is called a raw image. Okay, every image in there, you have the file name, and it has an extension CR2. And each image is between 15 and 20 megabytes. But what the important point about a raw image is, there's no compression. Okay, so when I put a 16 gig card in there, I can take a couple hundred pictures and that's it. There's no compression. All of the data that's coming from the camera, that's on the sensor is saved. Nothing is lost. But there's another type, and it's called a JPEG that my camera can do. All right, and you'll have a file name, and the extension on it is JPG. Okay, each image gets compressed, which saves a lot of space. So that original 15 to 20 megabyte image may get compressed down to 1 to 8 megabytes. That's quite a difference. So I can get several thousand images on compressed on like a 16 gig card. But it does come, okay, it does come with an issue that you're going to lose some detail. And in my next slide, I've got an example of it. Now, in the very first slide, I had this plaque, Dye Hill Observatory, and I took two pictures of it. Okay, one in the RAW format and the other one in the JPEG format. Okay, if you look at the RAW format, it's quite different. You'll notice that the edges on it, especially, are very crisp compared to the JPEG format. It's a lot softer. Okay. For my camera in the RAW format, it's saving it to 14 bits uncompressed. But with the JPEG format, it comes down to 8 bits. So you're going to lose something. Let's see. With a dedicated Astro camera, it's a bit different. Okay, my camera looks something like this. A full uncompressed image, Okay, it can take those. It can produce a 46 megapixel, that's pretty big, 16-bit FITS image. Now, what does FITS stand for? Flexible Image Transport System. What does all that mean? Okay, it's an uncompressed image. So all the data that's in the pixels is being stored into the image. This is used by the scientific community. When I take my pictures of stellar spectra, I always save them as a fit image. I don't want to lose anything. You know, if you have it start to compress things, you never know what you're going to lose. But this is not the only type that it can do. Okay, it can take compressed images. It can do JPEGs, which are 8-bit. Details going to be lost. But there's two other types. Okay, one is called a TIFF image, TIF or TIFF, tag image file format, and it can be in 8 or 16 bits. Another one is called PNG, just called Portable Network Graphics. This wasn't created by the astronomy industry. This was done by graphic artists and professional photographers deciding what things should be. And there is a difference between the two. If you're going to take photographs and you want to print them out, okay, you would want to save your image as a TIFF format. But if you're going to take images and let's say just display them on your computer monitor, PNG is the preferred method for that. There's a lot of little intricate details to it, but both are very good and better than a JPEG. But the files will be bigger. You know, my camera can take video, okay? And a lot of cameras can. And there's basically two types. AVI, which is in 8-bit, and SCRs, which are 8 and more importantly, 16-bit. When I take video formats, I like to take them as SCR in 16-bit so that I can capture the most amount of information that I can about the whatever it is I'm taking a picture of. At this point in time, I'd like to take a little break and ask if anybody has any questions.
Yeah, I have a question, Conrad.
Okay.
On the between TIFF and PNG, they're both compressed. I thought they were uncompressed, TIFF and PNG.
They may not be compressed, but in the image format that they're in,
Yeah.
okay, something is done to them because they're considerably smaller than a FITS image.
Because I like taking saving in TIFF, and I noticed the file size is much larger than PNG. Like a TIFF may be,
Yeah.
you know,
Okay, that's
8,
true.
10 megabytes, whereas
Yeah.
a PNG will be 300 kilobytes. I mean, it's a huge difference.
Oh yeah, there's a huge
I can't
difference.
see a difference, you know. I'll go on my computer screen, flip back and forth. Visually, I can't see a difference.
Oh, you won't see a difference because remember, PNG was made for computer graphics.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're not going to see a huge difference there.
No.
Well, where it will show up is if you take like a PNG file
Right.
and print it, say 8 by 10.
Okay.
Then
yes,
you'll notice a severe degradation in the quality of the picture.
Yeah,
that's right.
You take the same subject in TIFF, it'll look good.
Yeah,
okay.
That's why I never understood, you know, TIFF are like 8, 10, 15 megabytes and PNG are 300 kilobytes. I mean, that's a huge difference. How can that be have the same amount of information in it, the PNG as the TIFF? But
I have a question. There are image conversion programs that will convert from one format to another.
Right.
and it'll downsample 16-bit images to 8.
Right.
Okay. So if I have a 16-bit TIFF, I can create a 16-bit PNG file.
Yes.
But I would assume, and I don't know this for sure, but a 16-bit PNG going back to a 16-bit TIFF probably won't get you what something taken.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Somewhere in the process, you're going to lose because the TIFF file was much bigger. There's more
Yeah.
data stored in there.
Yeah.
So when you go from, 10 megabytes to 1 megabyte, something's got to give. You're going to lose something. And that always happens when you go from TIFF to JPEG or PNG to JPEGs. You're going to lose something.
And with the 8-bit with color, isn't it 8 to the third power? So you're getting 256 colors.
Yeah.
And then
It's only
16-bit is 16 to
256.
the third power. So you're in the millions of colors,
Yeah. Oh, there's zillions of colors out there.
Yeah.
Although I can't tell the difference myself. You'd have
No,
to be
you
an
can't.
expert.
I don't think the computer can even display a full 16.
Yeah, it may
Oh,
not.
oh, yeah.
Okay.
How is the camera different, operating differently in the video mode than in the regular frame mode? It's still taking frames, but what's this?
It takes, when it's in the video format, it's not just taking a single frame and then it stores it. It's taking, one frame after another, linking them, and then when it goes to save it, it saves it as one file.
Thank you.
Okay.
One other question, if I may,
Sure.
because it wasn't on the last slide. Could you again contrast the difference in file size between RAW and FITS?
There's really no difference between RAW and FITS. Sometimes the terms are interchangeable.
Okay. Great. So they're both massive, but they both are uncompressed
Well,
and
yeah, but
you
now
lose
wait a
nothing,
minute.
right?
Well,
Does the raw file contain the same header information that a FITS file
okay.
has?
All right. That's a good point. That was something I forgot. One thing that makes a FITS file a little bit different is there is a header file that is not in the RAW file when you use a Nikon or a Canon camera. And this header can actually store a lot of information. When I take my stellar spectra photos and I send them off to the AAVSO in a FITS format, the header has information about me, my observatory, the location. Let's see what else. Let's see the location, what software was used in doing some of the processing. Trying to think of some other, what the resolution is. It actually stores the time of the first photograph and the time of the photograph in the middle, because it's always dealing with a series of photos. There's a lot of information you can store in there in a very specific format.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you pointed that out. I almost forgot it.
Thank you.
Okay.
And there's also, although I've never used it, there are empty lines in the FITS header that the user can use for whatever purpose they want to use them for.
Yes, and there are empty lines in there that you could use to store other information. Like, for example, if you want to store the name of your observatory in there, because I'm doing stellar spectra, I have one line dedicated to the type of spectrograph that I'm using. And this goes to AAVSO, so when other people look at it, they have a clue on how the spectra was taken. But you need a very special FITS program in order to modify it. You just can't go in there with Notepad and think that you can change it. It just won't work
But
that way.
I believe there are freeware fits, at least their freeware fits readers. I
There are readers, but I've only found one that's any good for actually modifying it. And it has to be in a very specific format. Otherwise, if you don't type it in right, it gets rejected. You're not allowed to put spaces at the end of a line. It won't accept that.
Very
Any
good.
other questions?
Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay. Let's go to the next part. Look at capture software. I'm going to look at capture software for the digital cameras and for dedicated astro cameras. I decided not to include smartphones with it because they're very different for the Android type cameras and the Apple iPhones. But there is software out there. There are apps that you can download that will give you more control over the camera on the phone. But I was looking at a magazine, Technology, and someone had done some of the photos, and I wasn't too impressed with their deep sky stuff. Okay, the digital cameras come with a lot of software, and my Canon came with a software called EOS Utility. And amongst other things, I can do remote shooting. Okay, I can hook up a cable between my camera and the PC, and the PC can do all kinds of things with the camera. I'll show you. It looks like this. On the right side of the screen, I have controls for the camera from the exposure to the ISO. I can change it from a RAW to a JPEG image on this part. It tells me the number of photos left on the card. This is would be the shutter click here. On the left-hand side, this is your live view window. So if you have a star, you'll be able to see it here. And you can actually enlarge it so that you can get a real good focus on it. For astrophotography, I don't bother trying to play with white balance because that's just a little too much at this point of the game. But that's what I first used for astrophotography with my Canon camera. And it was pretty nice. And the Nikon camera also comes with something similar to this. But not long after I bought that camera, a piece of software came out called Backyard EOS. It's only $35 for Canon and Nikon cameras only. And this was developed for astrophotography, where it's got a feature for focusing, so you can get great focus on it. Features on it for planetary imaging. You can, on one side, set up a series of exposures that you want to have it take over time, maybe at different ISO settings and for different exposure settings if you want. You could have it take a number of exposures if you want. It's pretty nice for the money. $35 is not a lot for software these days. Let's see. SharpCat, good free software for dedicated astro cameras. It does not work with digital single lens reflex cameras. The left side has a live view window. So whatever you've got in the camera is here, and you could use this to help you focus. The right side of the window has all of the camera controls, and they're pretty nice. And let's take a look at the camera control part of this. And on one side of it, you can set, they call it color space, but if you have a color camera, You can have it do different types of color, but I'm always using black and white, so I only have two choices. Monochrome 16-bit or monochrome 8-bit. The read mode, I can pick different sizes. There's only two that I can use, but I don't want to get into that too much. Another useful feature on this is defining how much of the sensor you want to use. Now, the sensor on my camera is 4100 pixels by 2800 pixels. I can actually go and define a smaller section of that sensor to use. And that's actually really useful because if I'm taking a picture of a planet, let's say Saturn, and let's say Saturn only takes up 25% of the sensor, I can define a smaller part that the software will use to take the image of it. And the big advantage is the size of the image will be smaller and the frames per second speed can go up. Now that makes a big difference if you want to do some high-speed photography. You could change the binning and you can change the output format from FITS to a TIFF or a PNG or whatever else I want. Also part of the camera control panel is the exposure. You can go anywhere from 1 millisecond to 30 seconds or a minute. You can change the gain, frame rate. This part here, I really don't need to handle. But another nice feature with SharpCap, if you have a go-to mount, you and you have it connected to your PC, you can control the mount from the software. Make it go up, down, left, right, go all around. It's really pretty nice. And there's some other nice features in it too. Okay, and another big one is fire capture. This is also good free software. This is the one I first started with when I got my dedicated Astro camera. But then later on, I gravitated to SharpCap. I thought it was a little bit better for what I like to do, which is the stellar spectroscopy. And it's got a live view window on the right-hand side and a whole bunch of camera control features on the other side. And just looking at the camera control, you can define, do you want it 16-bit or not? How big the region of imaging could be. Can change the gain, the exposure, gamma, if your camera has that feature on it. You can define profiles that will save all this information so you can call it all back up. This would be the file type. In this case, it was for an SER, but if you want to do a FITS or a JPEG or an AVI, you could do that also. And this is the this button starts the imaging, and this little button in here sets for how long you want the exposure to be. Do you want to take 1 frame, 100 frames, or 1 minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes? This will show you frames per second that it's registering at. On this side of the screen, some interesting features are if you want to take a dark frame, or if you want to take a flat field, you can do that as part of this. And what it will do that's very nice is it will automatically apply the dark frame and the flat field just before it saves the image. It has a lot of other features. I know that Greg Shanish likes to use it, and he has his own reasons for using it. Like I say, it does a nice job with planets. Okay, SharpCap and Fire Capture. My suggestion is download them and try them both. Okay, you don't have to have a camera In the case of SharpCap, when you install it and set it up, if you go to the camera screen, even though you don't have a camera, you can go down here and you can choose a test camera. Okay, it's a camera simulator. And in fact, for some of the earlier slides, that's what I did. When you saw that one slide of SharpCap with the Orion Nebula on it, that's where I got it from. Okay, that was test camera 1 deep sky. And once you bring that up, you can play with different features on the software, see how easy it is to use. Now with fire capture, when you start it up, it comes up with a screen in which you would pick your camera. And if you want to play with the software, you choose something called the dummy cam. And it brings up a dummy image. For example, going back a slide, you saw that great big picture of Jupiter on there. That was from the dummy cam. And, you know, you can try different features of the software, see how it works, and see if you like it. That's 2 very nice things about them. And when it comes to free software that capture images, I think these 2 here are the best out there. And you can't go wrong for free. And downloading them and looking at them is only, you know, just using up some of your time, and it really is well worth it. So at this point, I'd like to stop and ask, are there any questions?
Have you ever tried the any of the other ones like Nina?
No, I haven't. Once I got hooked on SharpCap, you know, there are some other nice softwares out there, but you know, once you get into software, to take full advantage of it, you just have to use it more and more and more. So I
well,
never
I would agree.
bothered to look at Nina. Maybe I should.
I
And
just
maybe
was
they-
I was just was curious because I looked at that and I'm looking at SharpCap right now, and
yeah.
frankly, I'm more impressed with SharpCap.
I mean, I do like SharpCap,
And
and
I'll tell you one thing, I found out that SharpCap it has a downloadable PDF manual, if you will,
yeah, well, that's good.
and it is really loaded. There's like 300 pages of documentation.
Oh my God, that's a lot.
Yeah,
That's a lot.
but the point is that it's very well documented. There's a lot of reference material. Some of these things, not so much.
Yeah, you know, that is such a good point, and I'll tell you why. I was a computer programmer for 35 years. And, you know, one thing I was a stickler on was making sure that all of my work was well documented. SharpCap is well documented, and that's one thing I like. Not all free software out there is well documented. And when you don't have a lot of good documentation, you're going to see a lot of things on software and you're not going to know what it does. And there's not too many ways to figure it out. But I always thought that SharpCap was well documented. Now, if you notice up here, this is SharpCap Pro, which costs $10 a year. And believe me, in terms of software, that's cheap, where you get a whole bunch of extra features on top of it. And I liked that a lot too. So, but even still, the free versions are great. And still download them and try them both.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go
Conrad?
on. Yeah,
Conrad, I'd like to point out we had somebody new join us. Harrison
good.
Kerr, or Carr, I'm not sure how he pronounces it. Can you introduce yourself to us, Harrison? How you found out about us and what you're up to?
Hey, I'm Harrison Kerr. I'm in Bentonville, Arkansas. I'm actually an astronomy teacher here at the local high school, and I just found like a link train that got me to this, and I saw that you guys had a meeting today, and I've got my equipment, and I actually this weekend had thought of going outside, and so I thought I'd join and learn something new, and I am already. So
okay,
thank you.
good.
Good.
Uh,
We also have, this is the third of 3 sessions, and the other 2 are recorded and they're online. I can send you the links to those if you're interested. So,
Oh, absolutely. Thank you.
okay, well, welcome and glad you could join us.
yeah, you're going to be the only person in this group who's going to be able to do any type of astronomy this weekend. Because here in New England, we're expecting anywhere from 12 to 18 inches of snow. So that's going to pretty much bury us for a while, but
It's gonna be snowmageddon, you know.
Snowmageddon. Okay, after taking images, you want to do stuff with it. Okay, you're going to want to stack them. For planets, the moon, and solar, there's 2 nice free image stacking pieces of software. First one is AutoStacker. The second one is Registack. Now, AutoStacker is, not real old. It's a couple years old, and whoever designed it, somebody in Germany, has been very good keeping it up. Registack is much older. It hasn't been updated in years, and every now and then I have some stability problems with it. It will crash and just stop running, but it does have some nice features in it, and when you do some reading, you'll see people who still like to use it. With nebulous star clusters and galaxies, free software is Deep Sky Stacker. And this was the first one I used years ago. And it is very nice. And I do have a complaint, the lack of good documentation. Okay. That, whenever it comes to computer programming, documentation is always the last thing you do. And the best advice I can give you is check YouTube, because there is a lot of good YouTube videos out there on all of these products. Now, this is where we're going to do a
The
little
problem
stuff.
with that is just sorting through it to find one with an answer that you need.
Yeah, well, that's
Yeah.
true. That is true.
But
Okay. Oh, question? Okay. We're going to do a little software magic, and we're going to do some demonstrations. So the first product I'm going to do is Registack. On the left-hand side, this is a 45-second video of Saturn. When I processed this with Registack, this is what it came out as. Now, if you look at the left-hand side, here's the 45-second video. Okay, it's not bad. Every now and then, you'll see Cassini's division poke out of there. You may not be very impressed with it. But the neat thing is, when you put it through these stacking programs, all of a sudden there's a whole bunch of things that come out that are really nice. So now what I'm going to do is try and switch and do an actual demo of Registack. Here we go. When you open it up, this is what the window looks like. Now, I mentioned earlier about the lack of documentation, and that is a problem with this. But the first thing
hey, Conrad, are we supposed to be seeing the Registrack screen?
Okay, you're not seeing it?
Now, usually what you have to do when you change programs with Zoom is stop the share on the program that you're leaving,
and do a new
and
share?
then restart the share with the one you want to show us.
Okay, let's try this. Any luck?
Yep, there we go.
Okay, great. Thank you. This would have been a really lousy Zoom meeting if you hadn't told me that. Okay, here's Registack. I'm going to select an image. I have a Saturn AVI that I took years ago. 152 megabytes. It's only 33 seconds long. Right? This is what it looks like. There's a lot of things on here, and honestly, I don't know what they mean, and there's not a lot of documentation out there to explain it. But from what little I know from seeing other things, the first thing you have to do is set an align point. Now you'll notice it picked 4 points here that it's going to use as reference point when it goes through each successive image. Now that 33-second video, I just want to point out down here, is actually 333 frames. And another important thing I want to point out here is this limit setup. What I've told it down here is take 20% of the best frames and use those. All right. All of the other ones it can discard. And after I do have these two things set up, I'm just going to hit align. Now, if I wanted to set, just one more little thing, if I wanted to set another align point, I could just by clicking on this. So now I'm going to align it. And you can see the bar at the bottom. All right, it's all done. All right, and then it shows 67 out of 333, which is 20%. And I'm going to say limit that. Right, now we go to a new window in here. All right. Again, for lack of documentation, I don't know what all of this stuff means. Maybe if you're really gung-ho on it and like reading documentation, you can figure it out. But the easiest thing to do is just hit the stack button. Okay, it's all done, and you can see that that image has been cleaned up quite a bit. I'm not going to save the image yet because I'm going to click this little tab up here that says Wavelet. And what you can actually do is you could do make a few changes on here if you like. You can change contrast if you feel like it, if that makes it any better. And what makes Registack somewhat popular, even still today, is this feature called Wavelets. I'm going to take one of these bars, and it's when you move something over, it sort of enhances the image a bit and sharpens it. It can be very dramatic with some objects. But you play with this as much as you like till you get the image that you want. You can, you know, if you're good and know things about gamma, you can change that here. No, I don't like that. But again, you can play with the image here. You have to click do all, and then you could save your image. But as you can see, this is a lot better looking than that original 45-second video that I had. Does anybody have any questions about Registack? I'm not an expert on this. A lot of these things, I don't know what they do. But they're not bad. Okay, let me try going. Let's see. Go back to the presentation. All right, I'm going to do a new screen share. Okay, can everybody see the image of Saturn?
Yep.
Okay, good. Thank you. Oops, okay. Now I'm going to do a demo of AutoStacker. This is another little video that I took of the moon. All right, it's just 264 frames. And after I processed it with AutoStacker, this is what it looked like. Okay, and now what I want to do is go to AutoStacker. And everybody hang on. Okay, can everybody see Auto Stacker? A new window? I hope so.
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right, you get these two windows. The first thing you need to do is open the file that you're interested in. We don't want to look at Saturn. Go for the moon. Okay, now this video of the moon that was only 264 frames was 1.6 gigabytes of data. So there was a lot there. All right, this is what we get. And for this, I'm going to do surface image stabilization. All right, you get this big box that shows up here, and you pick a stabilization point, one particular feature that maybe you're interested in, that it can use as a reference. Maybe I will pick this point or this crater right here. Okay, and we'll use improved tracking. Now, I've played around with a lot of these, and I didn't notice much of a change. So I just sort of went with all the defaults. They worked pretty well. So I kept the quality estimator as Laplace, the noise range in the normal, local, and now I hit the analyze button. And it's going to go. It goes through all 264 frames, and it has some sort of an algorithm rhythm that determines which ones are good and which ones are maybe not as good. And I don't know what that algorithm is, but it must be pretty good. And this doesn't take long. Okay. All right, here we go. Now we get a quality graph of, again, remember there's 264 frames from the first frame to the last frame. Okay, this is the quality of the frames. You can see it on a graph. Now it will take all 264 frames and sort them in terms of the quality. And that's what this green line is. Okay, and you could see that the majority of them are above this 50% line. So what I'm actually going to do is say, okay, I'm going to tell the software to use 54 of the best frames. All right, and use that to stack and give me my final image. And I'll also tell it to sharpen the final image a little bit, and you will see quite a difference. But there's still one more thing I have to do, okay? Because my stack button is grayed out. I can't do it yet. I have to go back over here, and I have to place an alignment point grid. Okay, they can be different sizes, but all you have to do is just click it, and software will figure it all out. These are all the alignment points, okay, that it's going to use when it stacks the images. Now my stack button is ready, and it's just going to go through, and it goes through pretty quickly. There have been times when I've had some really large files, and it'll take an hour to process it. But this is working pretty well. Okay. We should get the word done. There we go. It's done. Okay. Now I'm going to switch screens again and show you what the result is. All right. And, all right. Can everybody see the moon? Yes?
Yes.
No? Okay. All right, need to make a little change here. I'm going to zoom in on this and notice the detail that you would not ordinarily get. This is fantastic. I mean, all these craters are coming in really well with, the image processing, the stacking. This is really neat. Auto Stacker is very nice. I like it. And it's free. You can download it. You could try it. You got nothing to lose. Got
Is there any,
another.
Conrad?
Yeah.
Would this benefit by taking this image and going back to Registrack and doing a wavelet processing on it?
It probably would. One thing that some folks will do, they'll process using AutoStacker. They'll take this final image, then they'll go back to Registack and to that last tab folder, and they'll use the wavelets to tweak it a bit. And you can actually bring out more feature with it. And it works really well with something like the moon. It can be pretty impressive. That video of Saturn that I showed you, I also processed with AutoStacker, and I want to bring that up. Let's see. All right, a new screen share. Can everybody see Saturn?
Yep.
Okay, good. If you notice, I think this is a little sharper
Oh, definitely.
than the one that came before, because not only can I see Cassini's division very well, there's also another little ring right here I can see. And there's a belt going around here that looks really nice.
Well, there's much more definition, much more.
Yeah. And, that's the neat thing here. The software is free. It didn't take that long to process it. You could process it both ways. You could, change some parameters somewhere, and you could end up getting something that's really neat. So what I'm going to do now is I've got one more demo to do. And let's see. Okay. Okay. This is the one for AutoStacker. And come on. All right. Now I want to do Deep Sky Stacker. I want to take 94 30-second exposures that look like this, and I have a dark frame and a flat frame to apply to it. And I'm going to turn it into this. So everybody hold on to your hats. I got to, let's see, go somewhere else in here. All right. Okay, so everybody should be looking at a different screen. And this is the main screen for Deep Sky Stacker. And the first thing I'm going to do is open up my picture files. All right, in this folder, I've got M51 and a whole bunch of fit images. I'm going to click on all of them and bring them in. The next thing to do is I want my dark frame. All right, it's in the same folder. And I want my flat file. Okay, I got all the images there. The next step in here is to register them. Whoops, that's right. I got to check all, and now I register them. And, I'm not sure what all of this means, but it's going to select the best 80% of them and stack I'm gonna click OK. Comes up with another screen, and it goes through this. And it's going to take one of the stars on there, use it as a reference point, and then make changes accordingly so that it can stack them. What happened? I did this many times and that didn't happen. Let's see. Let's see what happens. All right, don't go away anywhere.
Looks like it's working.
Yeah, it does look like it's working. Let's see.
Conrad, don't you have to indicate the number of stars that you're going to register? I think.
No, you don't have to do anything. Nothing.
At least that's when I use it. That's what I usually do.
Well, there we go.
Okay, this is not very impressive looking. All right, and that's what this is for down here. Watch what's going to happen. There's a lot of information in this image. Okay, it's not obvious right now, but watch what happens when I change this part of it. Okay, I got a lot more on there. I'm going to change it again. Okay, and I just brought out a whole bunch of detail that you couldn't see before. And what you can do is you can save this image. Okay, you can, import it into Photoshop or something else you have, and, you could make this much darker. You could change other things. But when you think of where I started, this is what I started with before I just played with this a little bit. That's the fascinating thing with image processing that you couldn't do 40 years ago with film photography. You took the picture, you sent it to the drugstore, it came back, and that was it. That's all you had. Now, some people who had their own dark rooms could try different things with different types of papers and the like, but never came out looking this neat. I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint presentation. All right, let's see. Here we go. Okay, and now we're going to be talking about the money software. Things like I have this asterisk here next to AstroArt. This is what I used. I chose that about 5 years ago. Some of the others didn't exist. So after looking around, I decided on this one. I liked it. Lately, you see a lot being done with PixInsight. You'll see a lot of people using this when you read in Sky and Telescope. It's very good. It really is excellent. Another one that I've just seen in the last 6 months, Star Tools. I don't know if anybody's using it. Maxim DL starts at 300 and goes up, depending on what you want to add to it. Prism, that came out within the last year. I don't know much about it. Photoshop, you get that at $10 a month. Great software. It's been around a very long time. It only gets better. And there may be others out there. All are powerful, but believe me, they have a big learning curve. All right. When I was programming computers for the state, the only way you get better is by constantly reading those manuals and trying things. Big learning curve, but that's the only way you're going to get good at this. You're going to want a fast computer with lots of memory. Minor updates are free, but major updates are not free. Last year, AstroArt came out with a major update, and it cost me $100 to upgrade, but it was worth it. I liked it. Not necessarily for the beginner, but a lot of these places have demo versions of their software. And maybe what they won't let you do in these demo versions is save your results. I remember that in some of these. You can do everything you want, but you can't save the result. But by all means, take a look at their demo versions. You might learn a lot from it. And with that in mind, that's all, folks. Thank you all for attending. I hope you got something out of it. And are there any other questions out there?
Oh, one thing I've been using, just as a big in this, to improve images I've taken with my DSLR, after stacking, I've just pasted them into a Word, and Word's got a picture tool format that allows you to brighten, improve, adjust contrast, and also sharpen, just some basic things, but I found that it really enhances the results to some, to a first degree at least.
All right, let me stop sharing. All right, we'll go back to this. Okay, let's see. Did I have anything I wanted to say? Yes, I did send the PDF file format to Linda, and so I'm sure she can put it on the website at any time. Everybody's muted.
It's up there on Night Sky Network already against the.
Okay, great. Good.
So if I don't do things right away, they get lost.
They get lost, yes. All right. Well, thank you all for coming. I've been asked, could I possibly go to Seagrave and do a demo? And from my past experiences, trying to set a night where it's going to be clear at Seagrave is not the easiest thing in the world. I mean, as a trustee, I used to schedule a lot of groups to come up there, and I'd have to cancel because the weather just wouldn't cooperate. I'd love to be able to do it, but I just don't know when. I don't know if the weather would cooperate. We'll see. And if there's no other questions, you're free to go. And
I'd like to know something.
Okay.
Is there anything follow on that people would like us skyscrapers to put together? Maybe Conrad, maybe somebody else, and anything we can help educate people on. I'm here representing the program committee, trying to put together new programs going forward. So if you have any thoughts, either you can voice them now or drop me an email, and I'll be happy to take a look at things.
I guess you're off the hook, Linda.
I hope I don't want to be off the hook. I want to be doing things. I want to.
Oh, I have something, maybe something. I've always thought it would be really cool to have a low cost astrophotography kind of travel kit for students. And because on a public school budget, I don't have a lot of money to spend on students for cameras and telescopes and whatnot. And so I've always thought in the back of my head, it would be really cool to have little backpacks full of equipment that would be just enough to get their feet wet in astrophotography. And so I don't know, maybe that's something. I'm curious,
Well,
what might that look like?
I don't know about a hardware kit, but NASA, I think I got this right, has a thing called micro observatory that are robotic 6-inch Newtonians mostly. But the whole thing is really directed toward classroom use over the web. Okay, and you set up what it is that you're going to take a picture of, and you submit it as a job. Okay, and during the night, the telescope will run and take your data, and I can't remember if it sends it directly or sends you a link where you go and download it. But anyway, you can get it. And then they have some online image processing tools that are simple. Okay. This is something an 8th grader could handle. Okay. That you can go and manipulate the pictures.
But it doesn't get them involved in the process of actually being outdoors and
That,
taking
Linda,
images.
without question, that's
You
true.
know,
But
one
the
possibility.
budget here is really good. It's
Yep.
like nothing.
Yep.
One possibility could be if the student had a small telescope, they could take a smart camera up to it and easily, you know, even if it isn't a great telescope, take a picture of the moon.
Well, that's true.
And looking at the smartphone to telescope adapters, they not only go on telescopes, you could connect them to one side of a pair of binoculars, which will, you know, I'd say there's a pretty good chance that a family might own a pair of binoculars versus a telescope. You could take the smartphone, connect it to a pair of binoculars, and, you know, a young person could have some fun just taking a picture of the moon with that. And, you know, they'd have the image on their smartphone. If they could send it to their PC, enlarge it, play with it any way they want. But that would be one simple way. And they also, you know, as they enlarge it, they could identify features on the moon. Now, it wouldn't work for trying to take a picture of a planet or deep sky objects, but it would be a way of getting a young person into it without a great deal of expense. I mean, the kids today, they all seem to have a smartphone. I didn't get my first smartphone until I think I was 55. So you know, that it's out there. They probably know more about that smartphone than I do with mine. So there may be ways of using that smartphone. One day, I mentioned this in the last meeting when I was at the observatory. A young girl, maybe she was 10 or 11 years old, took her smartphone, went up to a 16-inch mead, took a real nice picture of the moon. She probably went back and showed all her friends. So even if somebody has a small telescope, they could do it with that, any type of an optical instrument, just about. But that would be a low cost way of doing it. Does that help you? Okay, good. Thumbs up. I
Yes,
see a
thank
thumbs
you. I
up.
appreciate it.
Okay.
Let's see here, just so we can round this off. Can I do this? Yeah. Okay. Does everybody have this?
Oh yeah, observing with NASA.
Yeah, this is the micro observatory I was telling you about. Okay, you just type in micro observatory NASA. You might want to look at this. So here, let's see.
I think Jeff Padell had given us a presentation on that a few years back.
Yeah, he
And
did.
and I went and played with it. It was pretty easy to play with. I wasn't doing
Well,
anything
that's a good one.
serious. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know, Andromeda, some were good, some not so good, but anyway. Oh boy.
It was very straightforward and easy to use, is my recollection.
Oh, for sure. I just offer this up as another possibility that Harrison might, you know, want to entertain. Because
Yeah,
all
I'll
this,
check that out. That looks really cool.
And if you pick the right sort of objects, the people are going to get a good result. Andromeda is actually not a very good thing to start somebody out on. It's very large. It's so close. It has a very, very bright galactic nucleus, and it can be actually a huge processing challenge to make it look like anything. But things like the Ring Nebula, the why don't I want to Apple Core Nebula? What's the real? Yeah.
Dumbbell.
Oh, there we go. Thank you very much.
The Dum-Dum Nebula.
The dumbbell
Nebula.
Dumbbell
Okay.
Nebula. Yeah. Things like that work out pretty well. And I suspect these scopes do all right on the planets. I never tried them. So anyway, just a thought.
Okay.
Harrison, have you heard of the SLU telescope?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen then. We're going to play a game here.
Yeah, this is excellent. Somewhat more sophisticated. I know they give educators a pretty good break on this.
Can you see this screen, the online telescope for teachers? That's another option for you. Our group got given a 1-year membership to this, but we haven't quite figured out how to put it to use yet. So,
with the SLU telescopes, I've seen a lot of the results that Jeff Padell,
yes.
who uses SLU a lot, and the results are fantastic.
Right.
I mean, this picture you see up here of M51, I mean, that's what you're capable of doing. And, by all means, if you can get a teacher-free trial, do it.
Yeah, yeah.
You'd have a lot of fun.
Yep.
And another thing that's nice about this is that they do have some lesson plans there for you.
Oh, there's a ton of resources on this site because I was poking around it, and there's all kinds of teaching plans and everything available. So that's another.
Is this a remote telescope thing similar to the
Yeah.
one?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yes.
It is, but these are much, much more capable telescopes. They're much larger. They have 2 sites, one in the mountains in the Canary Islands, and another one's in the mountains in Chile.
Oh, wow.
The Chile observatory is cool because you can get access to the southern sky.
Right.
And they have some nice big scopes there. They have a lot of different scopes.
I mean, they've got
some from wide field to
yeah.
20-inch plane wave Cassegrain, which is really nice.
And basically what you do is you set up your exposures. They run them. You get an email and you go back and log in and download your data.
So Linda, we done?
We're done if you're done. Yeah.
Okay. If no more questions, then
Thank you, Conrad. That was
yeah,
great.
Thank you,
thank
sir.
you for showing up. And there's plenty of things to talk about when it comes to telescopes and astronomy and astrophotography and who knows what else. Okay.
Okay, well,
Signing
night,
off, everybody. Get ready for the snow tomorrow.
Oh yeah.
Just enjoy.
Yes. Bye now.
Good
Bye-bye.
night, everyone.
Thanks,
All
Conrad.
right. Thank you.
Yes, you're all very welcome.